Kobe getting captured was an interesting cliffhanger. Now the big question is, are we getting a Kobe retrieval / Blackbeard arc? I think a Blackbeard arc is definitely inevitable, but a Kobe rescue... I mean, Kobe is fun and all. He's a bit of a chipper lad who Luffy likes after initially not liking, but I really can't see Luffy dropping everything just to go and rescue Kobe. Initially, Luffy wasn't even going to rescue Ace. He was all like, that's my brother dude and he's on his own adventure. It's up to him. But also in terms of narrative, Luffy doesn't need to rescue Kobe because he's already on the path to do the punch fighting with Blackbeard. But also I think the potential here is actually far more exciting than a simple rescue arc. Eventually, Luffy is going to come into conflict with Blackbeard, and Kobe may also be there, which could lead to a historic team-up, much like how Garp and Roger joined forces on God Valley. And this is appropriate in far too many ways. Luffy obviously has the inherited will of Roger. Kobe was a Marine trained by Garp the hero and is in line to become our next Marine hero. And Blackbeard seems to be working towards Zebek's goals. So the three of them coming together would just be this beautiful repetition of history. The reaction I'm looking forward to most is Garp though. He has a much stronger connection to Kobe than Luffy does, and if anyone was going to try and mount a rescue attempt, I feel like he's a pretty strong candidate. No, it's definitely not the responsible Marine thing to do, but Garp already tried that strategy with Ace and let's see how that worked out. He sat there during the Paramount War like the dog in the burning house meme saying, this is fine. However, it was not fine. What I'm also curious about is why Blackbeard bothered to take Kobe at all. In terms of importance, I suppose there's the potential that he has a rather high bounty being labeled as a fancy hero and all, but also maybe it's because of his affiliation to Sword. How would Blackbeard know about that? I don't know. But then again, how does Blackbeard know about anything? Maybe his cherry pies whisper the secrets of the world softly into his ear during that time at night when he's supposed to be sleeping but does not due to other nefarious mysteries. Also, I'm wearing a jacket now. But also, this video is sponsored by Dragon City, a free-to-play game where you can build your own flying lizard empire by collecting over 1,000 different dragony things. And then you can take any 2 of those 1,000, get them to do a bit of the old breeding, hatch some babby dragons, and swiftly throw them into combat through different PvP modes. But do you know what's better than dragons? Nothing. But a close second would be zombies. And now we have just that with the Walking Dead characters coming alive in Dragon City. Very specifically, also in dragon form. Each has their own exclusive primary element and a special bunker attack for extra goodnessy powers in PvP fights. And if you like your dragons with a bit of a villainous zest, then the Negan dragon is already available. You can collect him through offers along with Maggie, Rick, and Carol, whilst Michonne requires you to master the Michonne quests, and if you collect all 5, then you'll receive the Daryl dragon for free. To collect all the exclusive Walking Dead dragons, download Dragon City by clicking the link in the description or scan the QR code and get this free special starter pack with 15,000 food, 30,000 gold, plus the epic zombie nature dragon. So do that thing, but for now it's back to you, me. After 1,000 plus chapters, I think it's hilarious that Kobe is currently back where he started. That's true actually. He started out as the prisoner of a rather rotund pirate, and just like the body shape of said pirate, we've now come full circle. They're very similar situations actually, because Alvida and Blackbeard were both absolutely impossible to overcome opponents for both of our respective Kobes. Our geeky childling couldn't comprehend being able to beat Alvida, and now our strong Marine hero man can't comprehend beating an emperor. But the key difference is going to be how Kobe acts here. With Alvida, he resigned himself to fate. He gave up. With Blackbeard though, I hope we get a contrast of Kobe being put in the equivalent of the same situation, but this time being a much more braver seaman. And maybe Luffy will be there to witness all of this and be all proud of his pink-headed friend, because I'm a big fan of bookends and I think it would be fun to end this series pretty much the way we started, just with significantly higher stakes. Honestly disappointed in Kobe. I get that he's like a vice admiral or something against BB and Boa, but damn, it's the final saga and he's nowhere near the strength I thought he'd be. I'm the exact opposite. I actually never expected to be this impressed with Kobe in my entire life. I mean, he's so cool, and he didn't used to be, but now he is. If we're going by the metric of strength power, then consider this. Kobe started training a whole 10 years after Luffy initially did. In fact, all of the new generation started their combat training as children. You know, your Zoros, your Laws, and your Sanjais. All of them had to get real good, real young. Meanwhile, after a mere 2 years, Kobe is a Haki Master Marine hero. No, he's not going to be standing up 1v1 to an emperor, but that was never the point of Kobe. His whole path is that he's going to become our next generation Garp, but without needing to add the fist into his epithet. Kobe is a different kind of hero. One who is more about exhibiting inner strength and spirit. Just like how we saw at Marineford when he saved Luffy's life using nothing but his word, words and the soiling of his pants. What's the Rocky Port incident, and what's Blackbeard's connection with it? That's a very good question, because this is something that is becoming increasingly important, like much, much more important than I ever thought it would be. The first time we ever heard of the Rocky Port incident was when Brand New labeled Trafalgar Law as the, quote, mastermind of the event. This may also be where Law took the hearts of 100 pirates, then wrapped them up in a nice little neat gift package, in order to give to the world government to become a warlord. But that connection has never been confirmed, so they may actually be two entirely different events. The next we heard was from Kuros, who labeled Kobe as the hero of Rocky Port, meaning that this event was far greater world news than at the very least I had initially suspected. But now that Blackbeard is involved, it's starting to achieve an almost legendary status. Like, we're starting to speak about it in the same vein as something like the God Valley incident. Although it's hard to tell how involved Blackbeard was. It may just be that whatever Kobe and Law did had a knock-on effect that weakened Ochoku in a manner that I can best describe as somehow, and gave Blackbeard the opportunity to do some very, very bad things. It's the kind of thing I'd really like to see a canon movie or TV special of. Something like God Valley, it was a little bit tricky because you need to keep the mystery of all of those mysterious characters. But Rocky Port, we already know who, what, when, and how, not why yet. I want to know why, so let's just flesh that out. And maybe we will find out if Kobe and Law ever meet, because I imagine they were on two opposite sides of that conflict. But I would really love to know more about this incident and how it connects three of these seemingly unconnected characters. The fact that Dark King Rayleigh was bluffing makes me concerned about how strong Blackbeard actually is. Yes, and I suspect the answer to that question is very. But you know, as he should be. It's not going to be a particularly exciting climax if Blackbeard doesn't display some sort of top-tier power. But also, let's take a moment to consider Rayleigh. He is a living legend. The latter meaning that he's done an awful lot of the former, and his body, well, it can't quite keep up with him anymore. He probably still packs just as much punch as ever, but it would more be an issue of stamina. He's an old man. He's tired. He needs his afternoon nap. Which I will say is a particularly bad matchup against Blackbeard, who, as we've established, needs no naps whatsoever. Rayleigh is 78 years old. His time at the top is over, and right now he's more or less trading off clout. People don't know how strong he is, and most of them don't want to be the footnote in science that finds out. What I do really like is that for someone who seems to roll the dice on fate an awful lot, Blackbeard knows exactly when to quit. As soon as an unexpected element impacts his odds, his conservative nature kicks in and he folds. Which is part of why his invasion of Amazon Lily was so terrifying. Because when Blackbeard makes a move, it is heavily calculated, and this very well could have been the end of Boa Hancock. The Seraphines are amazing. Instead of introducing a bunch of new characters for the PXs, for whom we will not have any intercest, besides their power, he introduced the clones of characters that we already know and care about. So I agree with this wholeheartedly, but first, just one thing, because a ton of people are getting this wrong, and fair enough, it's obscure, but Seraphim is actually already the plural of Seraphim. You have one Seraph, and you have two Seraphim. So no more of this Seraphims stuff. But I love this train of thought because Oda is very much invoking the rich characters he's already spent decades developing and turning them into something new and sinister. Thinking back on it, I don't think I can imagine a better way of implementing this. Like, imagine if he just introduced a series of weird cherub robots. It would be so blah and a bit lacking. But the fact that they have the bodies of our much-loved warlords adds this supreme factor of mystery and attachment. What also works in Oda's favor here is that he isn't an author who has abused the evil twin trope in One Piece. So the idea of like a bad Boa Hancock or a tyrannical robo-slave Mihawk feels oddly refreshing within the context of One Piece. It's also a great escalation of tyranny. The idea that the world government is now using your DNA to subjugate you. It's definitely next level, and this raises the stakes to ultimately bring them down. Having a Seraphim modeled after Ace could lead to a great rage moment for Luffy, Sabo, Yamato, and so many others. The world government could want it as a symbol of their power. The son of the former pirate king is now their mindless slave. So here's the thing, with a grand total of, the nothing we know about how the Seraphim work, why not have an Ace model? Ace was captured by the world government, which probably presented an opportunity to extract some will of DNA. I mean, it'd be pretty damn insulting. To execute Luffy's brother and then to use that brother against him, but I feel like we need to hit a limit somewhere. I'm still very much in the camp that there's likely only 7 Seraphim, and they're probably based on the original Warlords. Whereas if we start introducing an Ace Seraph, then it opens a door best described as permanently ajar, allowing in this constant draft of other Seraphim. For example, Kaido has been caught a whole ton of times, so why not have a Kaido Seraph? With that said, I would love to see a Buggy Seraph, because so far it looks like they're using the same fighting styles as their original characters, so this would be the ultimate opportunity to witness the true devastation of a Muggy Ball. I loved the Shaki being Empress revelation. In my opinion, it shows that Kuma's decision to send Luffy to Amazon Lily was deeper than it initially seemed, since he may have been aware of Rayleigh's connections in the island. Maybe. I've never actually given much thought as to why Kuma sent Luffy to Amazon Lily, because the manga explanation is kind of vague. When Rayleigh arrives on the island after the Paramount War, he essentially just says, "Mates, I found out what direction that man Borg sent that rubber boy in, and it coincidentally happened to be Amazon Lily." In retrospect, it would make sense if Rayleigh actually suggested Amazon Lily during his brief chat with Kuma, but the answer this time around does seem to be coincidence or fate. But coincidence. I doubt Kuma knew about Rayleigh's connection to the Kuja tribe because they weren't on the best of terms. In fact, I don't know if they were on any terms. And I can't imagine any of the Kuja royalty openly discussing the filthy man who saved them. It's probably something as simple as Kuma sending Luffy there because it's a rare society where everyone just knows Haki. So it could have served as a very good training ground. One thing about Shaki in retrospect though that I think hits pretty hard is the short flashback of her speaking with Rayleigh about the whole Hancock-Luffy situation, where she says, "It all makes sense if we assume Hancock's fallen for our little monkey. He's quite the catch. If I were Hancock, I'd fool the Navy by hiding him on the island of women." Which now makes 2 pirate empresses that have somehow recognized the charms of Sir Luffy. And that is a rare thing. Most characters don't look at Luffy and go, he's quite the catch. Instead, they look at him and go, "Hey, stop eating all my cheese. I worked hard for that cheese." Was this chapter damage control? I think this is referring to the Yamato part, and I won't go into my feelings on it again. I've stated that a lot, but it's an interesting question. On the one hand, Oda works about 3 to 4 chapters in advance, so by the time 1057 came out, 1059 would have been well into production. The draft would have been approved, and it may very well have even been in the process of inking. But it's also not impossible to imagine Oda or his editors in retrospect going, look, that didn't quite land the way we wanted it to, so let's add 2 pages at the beginning of another chapter. You know what though, it really doesn't matter anymore. What happened, and what's important is that these recent chapters have been phenomenal. After 4 years on an isolated island, the greater world of One Piece is reopening its borders to us, and I can't wait to see where it takes us next. And thanks again to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. Get your Walking Dead dragons by clicking the link in the description. However, I would really like to take you to this next video because it's really good, and I look forward to seeing you there.